Great. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome Domingo, Lord X, MKO, Iftikhar. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Good to have you guys here. Um, Jens, if anyone has a question, what's the method for them to ask questions?
Well, the configuration is such that anyone can just unmute right now and ask their questions. So I would suggest if people have questions, they can just jump in and ask them. If that gets a bit too chaotic, then we can, I don't know, we can change the way we did it.
That sounds perfect. Great. Cool. I'm going to take a link to this document and I'll share it in the chat just in case anyone doesn't have it already. It's that last link in the chat, and we'll get started. So this document, just a Google document, the RToken Deployer Checklist. We're always improving our documentation and our storytelling so that people can understand how to deploy asset-backed currencies on the Reserve protocol. And there's been a lot of great content created over the last several months. So I just kind of put that together in something that's like more of a narrative document is what you're looking at on the screen. So maybe I'll just kind of highlight a few things for folks. And this document, by the way, anyone can share it with anyone they want. You can share it on social media, whatever you want to do. Send it to friends, drop it in Telegrams, share it in other people's Discords. If you feel like you're familiar with a entrepreneur or developer or protocol or app that might be looking to launch a stablecoin, this document could be a good place to start for them. So first thing to flag in the document is, I think most people have seen it, but we created a 30-minute video that really does a good job of telling the whole story of what we're trying to accomplish with the Reserve protocol. You can just click on this link and kind of watch it, whenever you have time. This video is starring Nevin, of course, as well as some other really cool stuff in it. Second part here of the document is about register the DApp, and there's a couple of exciting things to say about it. One is hopefully everyone's already had a chance to sort of visit that website, and hopefully you've also seen the video overview. This is actually Sinatra and Luis deploying an RToken at ETH Bogota back in October. So learning how to use the registered app is pretty important to being able to launch RTokens. Some really good news is the registered app is going to have a UI update pretty soon. I don't know the exact dates for that. Do you know, Jens?
Last I heard from Eric was a couple of weeks out for the final version of the new UI. And we have an internal version already that we can check out. It's looking really good. You got a lot of new features on there. So yeah, a couple of weeks, but that might be in test. So take that with a grain of salt.
Right. And then also really exciting is Sinatra is working on a new video series about deploying RTokens, and that should arrive in April, or who knows, maybe a little sooner. But that's an important part of the checklist. Having familiarity with the registered app is kind of essential. Next thing I want to highlight is the parameters that are mentioned in the registered app. And I'll just kind of actually, I'm going to open up a screen for everyone to look at here. Let's do that real quick. And I want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Let me make sure I've got this maximized on my screen. I'm going to do this one more time. Share my screen. Yeah, we'll do this. For those who have navigated around in the registered app, you can see I've got it on screen here. And when you jump into the deploy RToken screen and you start to get into the flow of deploying the RToken and setting up governance. I'll start that here real quick. And I'm just going to put something together. I want to show you something in terms of parameters. We'll just kind of do this for now. This is not the important part of what I want to show you at the moment. But the important part of what I do want to show you at the moment is, let's see, confirm parameters. Did I do something? Oh, this is correct. Is this. So once you get into defining RToken parameters here in the registered app, you've got a bunch of fields that you might be wondering, what does it mean? What is an issuance rate? What is a scaling redemption rate? What is the long freeze duration here? And this is going to get much more robust in the UI, where it'll explain it right on the screen. But until that occurs, sometime in the next few weeks, you can also make sure I'm showing the right thing on screen. Yep. You can find all the parameters in our GitHub. And so it's linked right here in the RToken Deployer Checklist. And you can just click through. And it's in this sort of system design document. This is what I've been referring to. And so, for example, freeze. Let's just go find out. So here's where I can find out what exactly is the short freeze, what exactly is the long freeze, if those are the questions I'm trying to answer.
And something to add there, James, is that the explanations on the GitHub are really, in my opinion, they're focused on developers. They're pretty technical.
Yep.
But we actually recently on the Reserve website itself, we also added a new page or a new section that includes a description of all these parameters, but in more human-friendly language. Like non-developers, they'll find it there too. So just wanted to add that.
Yep. As you try to understand some of these parameters like slow issuance and issuance rates, it's all explained here. And I think Larry, who's joined our team running developer relations, is going to be working on improving our documentation. Right now we have documentation on the reserve.org website, and we have documentation inside of GitHub. So I think for the community, you're going to start to see this become a little bit more unified. And there can be very technical versions like Sinatra mentioned. And then there could be more simple versions for the UI of the registered app. But again,
yeah, that's right, James. And documents like the one you shared will be part of a future developer portal where there's technical documentation, code documentation, and the like. And on Register, it's going to be a more consumable format.
Incredible. Yeah, and just to pinpoint that a little bit more, I want to give everyone one more example before I shift gears. Minimum trade volume. Let's just kind of that seems kind of self-explanatory, but let's find out what it really is. Actually, it's not on this page. I just put my foot in my mouth, choosing the wrong example. But what I will do here is, let's just go see what the auction length is. Just copy that, go search for it here. And now you have a good explanation of what the auction length is. So if you're deploying an RToken and you're feeling like wondering what these fields are in the registered app, you can go into the GitHub and access system design to get most of the definitions. And if you're not finding what you're looking for, just drop into the Discord and ping one of us, and we will work to get you the answers quickly. Okay, before I move on, I'm going to keep kind of churning through. I just want to do a pulse check for the folks that have dialed in here, whether it's Dollar Question, Flamingo, D's Nuts, Lord X. Any questions so far before I keep going through the deployer checklist? Nope. Okay. All right. There's an incredibly cool overview video that Taylor Brent did, which is the overview of the Reserve Protocol smart contracts. Encourage folks to watch it. It's I'm not a coder myself, but I really enjoyed the video, and Taylor drops a lot of really valuable insights as to why the protocol is designed the way it is. So I would encourage that. Um, Something that's really cool to play with is this fork this model, and I'm actually going to put it on screen for the session here. So again, this is another file. Anyone here can share it with anyone you want. You can put it on social media. You can drop it in other Discords, whatever. This is a model that we use to model yield and TVL for RToken baskets. It's one of the tools that we use. And in fact, it's getting there's a bunch of new tools coming along. I just want to highlight a couple of things for everyone here, and I'm going to mess up this table just to show you how fun it is and easy it is, and then I'm going to rewind it back to the old version. Um, what you're looking at here is, and so by the way, you can fork this. Just make, if you want to make a copy and put it on your own Google Drive, you can do that. But right now, what you're looking at is an asset basket that's got 9 pool assets across about 5 different platforms with about $2 billion of TVL behind it as of January 1, 2023. It's actually a little higher now because the markets have come back a little bit. The really important thing to look at here is, this particular basket, for those that are looking to deploy an RToken, this was set up to weight the basket based on income. So you have some formulas here that are looking at the potential income, which is the product of the TVL and the APY to weight the basket. And so that's what we're looking at here is a income weighted basket, I believe. And of course, it stacks up to 100%. This is actually a fairly complex looking RToken. It could be simplified to just look like the following, though, if we wanted to do this. And we could even make it simpler. We could just kind of go, we'll just do 33% equally across the basket. So now this is a little bit easier on the eyes. You can see here it's backed by almost $1 billion of TVL. And this particular basket would yield 3.8% a year using those assets. Now, you could go do this with some other really interesting assets. If you were optimizing this basket for yield, you were a DeFi maxi and a believer in the MIM and 3 curve pool on convex, you might say, look, I actually want to build a yield optimized basket here. And, I might split up the basket like this. And now we suddenly have a 5% yield RToken. I'm obviously doing this kind of off the cuff here on a Discord call, but with a little bit of thoughtfulness, you can craft some really interesting baskets. And of course, anyone from the reserve team be happy to help give you feedback if you're in the community and you have some questions. We want to help you do that. Just as a matter of fun, though, where do we get these pool assets and where do we get these yields from? Generally, the best way to do that is just to go take a look at DeFi Llama. And I'm on DeFi Llama right now, so I'm going to just I only want to look at stablecoin assets, and I'm only going to look at if stuff that's on the Ethereum chain. So now these are all Ethereum chain stablecoin assets, and you can see it's ranked by TVL. The folks who've been in the DeFi community for a while, typically the higher TVLs look a lot like some of the more safe assets, and they might have some of the lower APYs. But we can sort this. Right now it's sorted by TVL. We could sort it by APY, and you see there's some pretty wild stuff here. looks like, funny enough, we've got some yield on Pickle, it looks like, but it's only $30,000 of TVL. That might not be the right assets to build R tokens with. One of the cool things you can do here, if you want to set up a filter, is maybe set up a TVL minimum of $20 million. Three, one, two, three. Hopefully that was not 200 million. Nope. Okay, good. I did that right. And now we're all looking at, reasonably good TVL. And we can sort by APY. And what you can quickly see here is Goldfinch, which I believe is doing real world credit lending. They've got a USDC pool at almost 20%. With about $80 million of TVL in the background. You could also, if you wanted to only stick with fiat stable coins, right? You might want, and platforms that you're, more so familiar with. Let's see, why don't we just actually, we'll just look at Compound and Aave here, just for actually, I'll limit us to Compound. I'll put Aave in, and I think that'll be a good place for this conversation. So now what I'm looking at is the highest APYs of stablecoin assets on Compound and Aave. And so, you might take this USDT pool on Compound, put it in the basket at 3.25%. So just going back to my model here, I might we'll go Compound. Whoops, I think that was USDT actually. USDT, Compound. I think it was, what was that? 3.25. And change the TVL behind it. I know I'm getting in the weeds. I will get out of the weeds really quick here. That's about $53 million back in there. And so you can see how that contributes to the basket. If you were to put that asset in the basket. Let me just kind of scroll down a little bit here. There's also a backtester tool, which maybe I'll share at the end. I believe we've now shared it with the community on how you can actually, you could test a basket like this basket that's 5.69% as of today. What was it 2 months ago? What was it 4 months ago? Is it actually sustainable? So I'll show you how to do that. So the next thing I'm going to jump in is this revenue table. Before I jump into the revenue distribution of deploying an R token, would anyone like to ask any questions or take a breath, or shall I keep going? Okay, I think I'll keep going. And again, I know the purpose of today's meeting is really just to overview the checklist. It's not to get into the weeds on a lot of this, but we can always get in the weeds in the Discord. But I'll just show you really quickly how this table works right here. You might have seen this type of a table before if you've worked in finance and strategic planning and stuff like that. But basically, what we're doing is we're taking this 5.69% yield and we're distributing it amongst the stakeholders. In this model, it's designed to give 80% to the R token holders, 15% for staked RSR over collateralization, and 5% to the fine adventurous entrepreneur who's developing and deploying this R token. Will it be like that in the future? I don't know. These are just placeholder numbers. But what you quickly see is how this yield splits out. If you were to create a stable coin that had $100 million market cap, then those R token holders are going to be splitting $4.5 million. The RSR stakers are going to be getting about 852,000, and the person deploying the R token is going to be getting about 284,000. We've seen all kinds of scenarios. For the folks who know about EUSD that's launching on chain here in about a week, the ratio looks like this, actually. It's 100% of the revenue is going to over collateralization. And And that's because the priority for EUSD is safety and reliability, really being the safest and most reliable stablecoin alternative in the market. So you can see how all that money will flow to the stakers. So let's see, I'm going to unwind everything I just did. Hopefully, yay, that worked. Good. So I'll leave that alone and kind of go back to the checklist here. But you can fork this model and play with it, create your own versions and drop it in Discord, and the team would be happy to work with you on it. Here's a really important part of the checklist. These questions. As we've been having lots of different conversations with potential RToken deployers and protocols and apps, what I always look for is someone who has a problem to solve, as opposed to a solution looking for a problem to solve. We want to be solving unique problems with whatever someone from the community might launch, and so being really clear on these questions. Now, we don't really, an RToken deployer doesn't really have to answer all of these questions perfectly. Really, the goal of these questions is for the RToken deployer to think about the questions and do their best with them, and then for the community to help out with helping answer some of the questions. Really understanding like the unique selling proposition for its ecosystem. Right now, the unique selling proposition for EUSD is they wanted a safer and reliable asset-backed stablecoin for their ecosystem than any alternative. And when you put that in the mobile coin ecosystem, it gains some new superpowers around privacy, speed, and cost, right? You can send it in less than 5 seconds and it costs less than a penny. But EUSD also has some superpowers on the Ethereum L1, which is, fundamentally, it has kind of this safety and reliability profile of being asset-backed, diversely asset-backed, and some censorship resistance because of the assets it's using. But the other opportunity beyond that on Ethereum is, since Ethereum is the home of DeFi, maybe roughly 80 to 90% of total DeFi is on Ethereum. This asset becomes a very interesting asset for DAOs to diversify and get some censorship resistance and safety. And it also becomes a really interesting asset for DeFi yield farmers to want to provide liquidity and earn some rewards. So, that's the unique selling proposition for EUSD thus far. By the way, this will be communicated in a more professional format in about a week. It'll sound far better than what I'm saying. But another idea that has been kind of discussed in the community is like an high USD, HYUSD, which might look like a 4 or 5% yield RToken that 80 or 90% of that goes to the holders of it. That's a pretty unique proposition. I'm not familiar with any projects that are doing that right now. If you're lucky and you're born in a kind of a privileged country and you have access to Venmo, Bank of America, and Merrill Lynch, then you can get your wealth manager to go get you some type of 5% yield product. It won't be a stable coin, but and so you might not think this is as important, but people around the world that are affected in hyperinflation environments or don't have access to the banking system, we think this is going to be pretty interesting for them. And then there's a whole list. You guys have seen the Discord. There's lots of ideas being thrown around, but the main takeaway here is these are a few questions that are pretty important to answer. These 7 questions. If you're an RToken deployer, what are the partnerships or integrations you're thinking of? What chain is it going to be deployed on? In the case of EUSD, it's going to be on MobileCoin and on Ethereum. And who knows, it might find its way into the Polygon ecosystem pretty soon as well. I had a call this morning with someone. I always like to find out what people's priorities are. Why do you want to launch an asset-backed currency? And sometimes it's for the stability and the peg. Sometimes it's for revenue. Something you guys are going to see is we're going to be increasingly in the community talking about what would it look like if Lido were to launch an asset-backed currency, or what would it look like if Compound were to launch an asset-backed currency. And this is really kind of, I think, important. One of the reasons why you're going to see this expansion with nearly every fundamental DeFi protocol launching their own stablecoins is because one thing you can do if you have your own stablecoin that you can't do if you're just using DAI or USDC is the revenue generated from that stablecoin can be kept within an ecosystem as opposed to leaked out to Maker or Circle or Pax or something like that. And so there's a bunch of different things you could do with that. You could give it to the community, or you could use it to boost incentives. And there's some great projects out there that are already doing this, and it's something we think RTokens will have a really interesting use case for. Like if there's a lending market protocol that wants to launch a yield-bearing asset-backed stablecoin. Well, that yield can now be redirected into boosted incentives for the lending market, right? Maybe the users can borrow at a lower rate, or liquidity providers can earn even more rewards. So this is where it gets really interesting around building flywheels. I think most of you know this. I'm going to just go on a quick tangent. There's kind of like only 4 business models for stablecoins, right? One model is fees, which is what Tether does. Another model is arbitrage, which is what a lot of different protocols do. They arbit, to keep the peg and earn some fees on that. The third model is interest on reserves, right? Yield on reserves, which is essentially what Circle and Pax do in a centralized way. It's what DAI does in a semi-decentralized way. They're diversifying into real-world assets and things like that. And it's what the Reserve Protocol does in a fully on-chain way, right? It's yield on those reserves through DeFi. And then the fourth model, which is a super popular revenue model for stablecoins, is loss leader, right? This is exactly how Circle and Tether started out. They were loss leaders. They didn't have a revenue model. But what this does is the loss leader model becomes the glue. It becomes the soft tissue that connects the whole ecosystem together. Circle started with a loss leader model, and then they launched treasury management services. They launched investments, and now, fortunately for them, you can go earn 4.5% on T-bills. Tether started as a loss leader model, really important for the Bitfinex ecosystem. 9 years ago, when Bitfinex bought Tether, and at one point, Bitfinex was the largest crypto exchange on the planet, especially around 2017, 2018. So I say all this, about the role of these 4 different revenue models. Number 1 being fees, number 2 arbitrage, number 3 interest and yield on reserves, and number 4 loss leader. Oftentimes, you'll see stablecoins doing all 4 of those, and the reason a protocol might want its own branded dollar is not just for the brand extension. It's because it's helping really galvanize their ecosystem to use their dollar and to take the yield and revenue from that dollar and use it to boost incentives for their community, as opposed to it leaking out to Make or Die or Circle or something like that. So anyway, you can see where this can go when you start talking about revenue. I did go on a little bit of a tangent there. Apologize. And then I'll just kind of wrap these remaining questions up. Knowing what's going to be in the collateral basket is important, and really for the person who's going to launch this R token to really have uh, a rationale for why they're doing what they're doing. We could go put we could go build a basket of degen assets, but and you could look at that and say, here we go. Let's see if I have. There we go. We got some 570. You could do that in theory, but depends on what your goal is. It might not be a very safe basket. I'm not particularly familiar with Volta. I suspect it's yeah, I don't know enough about it. So knowing what the assets in the pool are, which platform it's on, TVL, APY, these are all important factors. I probably, Volta and 577% APY going into an R token, that's not currently on my radar. But if someone in the community has expertise and deep knowledge about Volta and Sushi Swap and wants to build that, that's what the permissionless platform is for. So just kind of going back to the checklist, these questions are pretty important. I'll just drop a little bit of highlight on there just so if anyone wants to track them down a little later, they're there. Okay, let's take a breath before I go a little further. I want to just see if anyone has questions so far about the RToken Deployer Checklist. Nope. Okay. The next section is learning a little bit about RSR staking, and you can find this all on the website. Our reserve right staking, governance, reserve governor Alexios, supply, and the release schedule. I won't get into too many details on this other than to say, what we're focused on in the community in the next many months is for the community to have multiple R tokens to stake on. And you could divide your RSR equally across them, or you could go and put all your eggs on one basket if you want. So, that's the intention of the reserve protocol, is to let the community have a choice. And I suspect you will start to see some type of power law distribution of community coalescing around some R tokens, but not others. The market will really decide that. Next thing to mention in the document, we have a lot of different ways to support our token deployers. Probably more ways than are listed on this document, but one of the ways is Reserve is now a top 10 holder of Convex tokens, which means we get to help our tokens get off the ground and direct liquidity incentives to them. This means if someone here on the call is listening and you're thinking about building an R token and you have some ideas about the use cases and maybe some partnerships, we can help you with liquidity once you've kind of baked the ideas and deployed the R token. And we want to do that. So that we don't want that to be a barrier for R tokens to launch. But it's kind of like we're in this together. You launch the R tokens, we help get some incentives on liquidity and so forth. There's much more to it than that. But you can see how this is a team effort, a community effort to launch R tokens. But that's an important way we can help. Second way is content. Discords, Twitter Spaces. We will use our tractor beam to help our token deployers attract community to their mission, their design, their approach to what they're building. We want to help you guys get exposure for that. Right now, the community is about 500,000 on social media. This is across all platforms, and then another, over 600,000 users of the Reserve app in Latin America. So we have a reasonably sized community. And then this piece is super exciting, and it really goes far beyond the Reserve app. I think everyone here on the call is probably familiar with the Reserve app, also known as RPay. But that represents one of the places we might be able to help get our tokens distributed. But it turns out, Soham and I have been really busy spending time with a lot of wallets out there. And for a cool RToken, like let's say someone on this call decides to, right after the call today to create high yield USD, um, uh, if that existed, then we'd be able to kind of call on our network of wallet apps and maybe get it included, which could just mean it's listed in the swaps, or it could mean more than that. It could mean like a promotional panel to feature it as part of a wallet app. There's some really cool things. When I was showing you guys revenue sharing earlier, I showed you an overly simplified version. But if you were building a sophisticated RToken, and maybe you wanted to send 2% of the revenue into a contract address, which could be split with wallet apps that distribute the RToken. That would be fairly feasible to do. I could see in the future the revenue sharing of RTokens being split by, could be 4, 5, 6, or 7 parties that all play a different role in the RToken success. On the tech side, the tech is free. It's permissionless. Anybody can use it. If you're wondering, if you don't already know, you might be wondering, well, how does Reserve make any money? How do we sustain? How do we keep building and supporting technology? How do we keep building and supporting the community? Well, we are in exactly the same boat as you, as an RSR staker. We do not charge any fees. There's no subscription model. We are an RSR holder like the community, and we're going to stake on our tokens, right? And so everyone here, I think, might know this, but RSR over collateralization, it kind of plays two roles. Number one, the RSR stakers that help over collateralize, we get to earn a portion of the revenue, this is how Reserve would make money as well. We would stake our RSR and then we would earn some revenue. The downside, of course, though, is the over collateralization is a first loss capital fund. So should there be a DPEG event in the future, maybe Tether DPEGs 10% for 24 hours. Depending on how the RToken's designed, it may or may not call on some of that over collateralization to back it up. But the good news, I think, here is Reserve and the community, we have the same choice that you guys do. You either stake on the RToken or you don't. You stake on the RToken and put some skin in the game and you earn some revenue, or you don't. And then sometimes we might stake on an RToken that has an issue and we lose a little bit of RSR as a result of that. So we're going to be really paying a lot of attention to hopefully picking the best RTokens, to stake on, because we don't want to lose our money either. So that's how incentives are aligned. So that's, for the most part, is the checklist. There's this very long FAQ below, which, by the way, this document, anyone can go into this document and add comments and questions if you want. But that was the intention of today's session, really, is to walk through the deployer checklist, maybe see if anyone has any questions now. How about some critiques? I like critique. Anybody got some? I think you can just unmute if you want to speak. All right. Well, Larry, did I miss anything? Larry and Jens, anything I missed here, you think?
Well, I think besides the tool, the spreadsheet that we shared on choosing your basket, I think it would be really cool and a good moment to also, if you still have the time, to show the backtester, because that's a really awesome.
That, yeah. And now it's hosted on a better URL. Try backtest.reserve.org.
Ooh, fancy. Okay, backtest.reserve.org. So
The URL is fancy, but there's nothing fancy about the site. The font is weird. Oh well.
would you like to take over and drive, Larry, or do you want me to do it?
Why don't you? It's pretty straightforward, and if
Okay.
you mess up, it would be my fault for not making it intuitive.
Cool. Awesome. And I'll just kind of play with my little DeFi Llama as we go along. So first of all, this project, Soham kicked us off and built our alpha in a Jupyter notebook about a month ago. Some of y'all might remember, actually might have been 2 months ago. We did the Discord live on this of building baskets, and now I guess we'd call this our version 2 of the backtester. And what's cool about it is I'm going to build a basket real quick. I'm a big fan of a lot of the convex assets. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those in. I'm actually going to get wild though. I'm going to put some goldfinch in there. If you guys remember, it had that huge APY we just looked at. And I'm going to put these in at 33, 33, 33. So the basket weights, if I want, actually, I'm going to be a little more creative here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go 10, 10, and 80, right? 10%. Whoops, that did not work. Let me do that again. 10%, 10%, and 80%. So, and I'm going to reference this to USDC on Compound. And I'll go ahead and click the run button here. And what we're going to see is what this APY looks like.
You would have had to toggle the thing on the top left to get those custom weights to take effect.
Okay, my bad. Do that again. Here, we got it this time.
And for whatever reason, there's a bug which makes it so that the benchmark line doesn't correspond to the legend color.
Yep,
but
I see that.
Yeah.
So for those that are looking at the chart, it looks like we've just designed something that looks like a 14% yield RToken, which would be kind of cool to have that exist in the world. Now, back to what I was saying earlier, remember the TVL on this USDC on Goldfinch is pretty low. It's probably around 50 or $60 million. So I doubt you would, if you were building an RToken to scale to hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of TVL, you probably would not do a split like this. But you might consider something like this. So here we are, we're just doing 33% across the board. And you'll see the APY of this RToken basket come down. But yeah, it kind of looks like it's somewhere around the 7 or 8% range. But this is how you use the RToken backtester, and this URL I think is available to anyone right now, backtest.reserve.org. Anything else to say about this, Larry?
No, that was a great demo. I think it shows off what it's capable of. Anything so? You are
nothing for me.
Yeah.
Cool. And here we'll just do one more for fun. Let's do some different types of collateral baskets. Let's just stick to assets on Compound. Maybe we're a Compound maxi here. So I will let's add some. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong spot. There we go. There's so many DeFi protocols. Really knowing them and knowing how they work and how trustworthy they are, it's a full-time job. But, here I've built a basket of 3 compound assets. This will actually be interesting to see what this looks like compared to the reference. The reference being the yellow line at the bottom. Let's see if we get a little bit better performance from diversifying. I suspect it won't be that much better, but yeah, you can see how the lines kind of track with each other. Any questions from the community? Well, I hope everyone gets a chance to play with backtest.reserve.org, and the same goes for that RToken Deployer Checklist. Ask all the questions you'd like to in the Discord, and the team will be willing to help you. And one quick plug: Larry's hosting a hackathon at ETH Denver on Wednesday, March 1st. And we are super excited to see some hackers come in and build our tokens, design baskets, and he'll be communicating more about that hackathon pretty soon. And then for anyone else who's listening, you get to find out first. Reserve will also be doing an event called Something Stable on March 1st, the evening, which will be a collaboration with Frax, the Flywheel podcast, and Rye. And then finally on Friday, March 3rd in Denver at ETH Denver, we'll also be doing another event called Crypto Crossroads. If you're listening, just look for those invitations to pop up in the Discord over the next few days and get yourself RSVP'd. We hope to see you in Denver. Thanks, everybody. I think we're complete today. What do you think, Sinatra?
Yes, very well. Thank you, James. I've already shared the link to the backtester in the RToken Brainstorm channel. So make sure to check it out. Thank you, James, for the explanation. For the people that want to re-listen to this afterwards, we have recorded the session and we'll be sharing it on socials, probably YouTube. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, James.